Reminders for housekeeping before we get started today. Please do stay on mute, but if you need any clarification on today's topic, do pop your questions into the chat box so we don't miss it. As always, any new questions for future webinars can be submitted using the registration form, which will be sent to you after the webinar, along with the recording of this one, and any links to resources that we might mention. Today we take on a slightly different format for the session. Emma is once again travelling the world, so is unable to join us, and we were hoping to have an expert guest with us, but unfortunately varying circumstances has meant that for this month it hasn't been possible. However, that's not going to stop us from providing you with an information-packed session. So following our session on speech and language a couple of episodes ago, we had several questions come into us on the topic of EAL and SEND, and that's going to drive today's session. So let's get started. Now, one question that came into us was, how can educators better distinguish between SEND barriers and language barriers? And I think this is a topic that comes about in many school settings. Certainly when I was a SENCO, it was always a challenge, as EAL and SEND are two distinct groups. However, in some cases, there is a crossover, and it's unpicking that crossover that can present those certain challenges. Now, it's important to recognise that EAL is not a special educational need. And I think we are beginning to see the term of EAL begin to change to multilingual learners, to actually celebrate students' languages and not see it as a barrier as such. Now, depending on their level of proficiency in English, multilingual children who are learning English as an additional language may face a linguistic challenge and need targeted language support, both to help them learn English and to learn all their subjects in English. With that support in place, schools can lay the groundwork for academic success. But as in all learner populations, there are a significant number of multilingual children who do have special educational needs or disabilities. In the UK, we have the SEND Code of Practice, and that provides specific guidance with regards to English as an additional language. It recommends that very careful consideration should be given to the identification and assessment of special educational needs of pupils whose first language is not English. And it highlights the need to take into account the context of home, culture and community. And it shouldn't be assumed that just because there is less competence in English, that's the only reason why EAL learners do make slow progress. In addition, they may also have learning difficulties. And the latest UK government statistics indicate that there are just under 230,000 children in schools in England alone who speak or are thought to speak a language other than English, and who also have SEND. So if we then widen that out to worldwide, that's going to be quite a significant number of children. So for those children to thrive and reach their potential, it's vital to identify them as early as possible and to provide targeted and integrated support that addresses both their linguistic challenges and their special learning needs. And that requires schools to have systems and provisions in place, and for staff to work together on identifying, assessing, referring and supporting those children and their families. And that's the bit that can be quite difficult sometimes. So to establish whether pupils have a special educational need or an English language development need, schools need to examine in detail the performance of those students and their progress across different subjects. It's also recommended that in those initial stages of the process of identification, the school should make a full assessment of the pupils' language skills, including the languages they speak, the exposure they've had to each of those languages, how they use each of them currently, and actually what's their proficiency in them. Now, here in the UK, the Bell Foundation provides a great tool to help schools to do this. And while this is UK based, for our international colleagues, you may find that this resource can be adapted to suit the needs of your settings too. Now, a link to the Bell Foundation will be sent to you in the follow-up email. Now, the guidance provides practical resources for teachers, EAL coordinators, SEND, inclusion staff, whoever really is supporting those students with EAL. and it's designed to support staff to observe and gather information and to make an informed judgment about whether a delay in pupils' expected progress and learning may stem from their current inability or limited ability to access the curriculum due to their proficiency in English, or whether that might be that they are experiencing a specific learning difference or special need. You may also be interested in a new resource from Renaissance called Language for Learning. And there's a wealth of sessions designed to equip educators with practical tools and strategies to foster a strong reading culture and support the language development of EAL learners, with a focus on building essential literacy skills. You can explore on-demand webinars, mini-series videos, case studies, blogs, all filled with actionable insights to help you implement effective and individualized interventions that drive that lasting progress. Now, in one of the webinars, Dr. Carol Johnson, who's the International Education Officer at Renaissance Learning, she talks about enhancing EAL language and literacy development. And we also have Dr. Jean Kearns, who's the Chief Academic Officer at Renaissance, discussing what school leaders need to know about supporting EAL students. And again, a link to that Language for Learning package will be sent to you in the follow-up email. So I've shared quite a lot of information, shared quite a few resources in response to that original question. But I'm now going to pass you over to Debbie to talk a little bit more about assessing and supporting EAL students.
Oh, thank you very much, Polly. Assessing and supporting EAL students requires comprehension of their individual, linguistic and educational background. This can be achieved by assessing their capabilities and evaluating skills, while also recognising their needs and understanding their limitations. Providing tailored support will facilitate their English language development and academic progress. This includes using a range of assessment methods, developing a whole school approach, and utilising various resources and strategies. For more details on assessment methods available through Renaissance, please do revisit our May 2024 Searchlights session, because we did cover quite a lot of those resources during that session. According to the Bell Foundation, an initial assessment is essential to demonstrate the student's proficiency in English, including reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. It should also include their levels of previous education, as well as strengths and weaknesses in their first language. The assessment should be ongoing to track their progress, whilst providing the opportunity to identify areas for additional support. To provide the support required by EAL students, the Bell Foundation recommend tailored teaching using visual aids, providing scaffolding for the students, for example, sentence frames, breaking tasks down into smaller steps, and using overlearning to embed knowledge. Teach English language skills, for example, grammar, vocabulary and comprehension, using clear, concise language, and if possible, use their first language as a bridge to support the students. An inclusive school environment is essential. Ensure that the students are included in a welcoming and secure setting where they feel valued and supported. If possible, create a multilingual culture to allow students to share their experiences. Collaborative approach, ensure that all teachers and relevant school staff, as well as parents and caregivers, are all involved in the support of EAL students. By implementing a comprehensive assessment framework, schools can empower EAL learners to succeed. The Common European Framework for Reference for Language, or CEFR, is a widely recognised benchmark For assessing language proficiency, CEFR organises language proficiency into 6 levels, and that goes from A1 to C2 for learners experiencing barriers due to having English as an additional language. A1 and A2 are basic users, B1 and B2 are independent users, and C1 and C2 represent proficient users. This can be further divided in a criterion-based way to evidence and assess a learner's proficiency in English. A1, they are able to hold simple conversations and understand basic signs. A2, they can write simple notes and understand frequently used words and phrases. B1, they can join in conversations, write simple text. And B2, they can understand more complex texts and participate in conversations with fluency. C1, they have the ability to write structured text and understand more complicated text when reading. C2, they can speak fluency and they can summarise information from written or spoken sources. During our session in May 2024, we alluded to Mayon being used as a support for EAL learners. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Mayon, let's explore it in a little more detail. Mayon is an online digital library and classroom teaching tool. It comes with a variety of text and has multiple tools within it to support both classroom practice and also independent reading at home. Mayon can be used from reception right through to the end of Key Stage 4 and can be assessed on computers, tablets and via an offline app. Reports within Mayon provide teachers with key insights to monitor reading habits of the students. Learners are provided with individual reading recommendations in line with their interests, where students can read and listen to books within the classroom setting or also at home. Mayon is particularly suited to the needs of EAL students. There is an ability within Mayon to select books via CEFR levels for those students that may have a very basic grasp of English. The programme also has the option for students to have the books read to them, giving the student the experience of listening to the spoken language, and the students can also slow down the guided audio if they need to listen more carefully, and also have tools available in Mayon to highlight words and sentences, which make it a great resource for EAL students. The dictionary within Mayon is a fabulous tool for them to build up their knowledge of vocabulary. And if they use it in conjunction with the journal in Mayon, they can create their own bilingual dictionary. Students can also use Mayon as part of their daily reading practice. And teachers can use non-fiction books and Mayon news articles to support students' knowledge of wider curriculum subjects, for example, science. There is also a record function on Mayon, which is great for showing progress for EAL students. The student can use this facility to record their reading, and if they do this on a regular basis, for example, every few weeks, they will show their continued improvement in fluency and pronunciation. For EAL students whose first language is Spanish, French, Arabic or Mandarin, Mayon News is a brilliant resource. It consists of 5 daily news articles and they're updated Monday to Friday, 52 weeks a year. Students are able to read or listen to age-appropriate current event news articles and discover world events in these languages. In addition to English, alongside watching videos, students can see slideshows, and they can also complete short quizzes about the articles. For more information on Myon or to request a demo, please access the Myon link in the chat. I will now pass you back to Polly, who will take you through this month's illuminations.
Thank you, Debbie. I think it's really useful to have such a great resource, but also that links to those CEFR levels so that you can be sure that you are targeting students in the right way. So brilliant there. So yeah, we move on to today's illuminations, where we sort of try and round up the session and provide you with next steps to help you on your journey with your support offer for students. This session has been filled with a whole wealth of resources and links for you to digest. So our illuminations for this month, we would suggest to spend some time looking through those links that we've shared, and they will of course be sent out to you in the follow-up email along with the recording. But just to summarise some of those key resources, we looked at the Bell Foundation, we looked at CEFR, I shared the Language for Learning resource, and just to highlight, there is another webinar on the 12th of May exploring how to empower EAL learners through a discussion on language as a foundation for literacy, and that is with Dr. Carol Johnson again and Alex Kingsley. We've also got the EAL Hub. That's a really useful resource there. And as Debbie mentioned, Myon, if you're interested in Myon, we will pop a link to Myon for you as well. There's also some amazing EAL experts out there on LinkedIn. We would recommend following Beth Southern, who is an EAL consultant and specialist leader of education for EAL, as well as Adam Lewis, who is an EAL teacher in Hanoi. There'll be many more people out there, but we don't want to overwhelm you and bombard you with too many things to look at. So hopefully that's enough just to be looking at for now. I will now hand over to Debbie, who will close our session for today and tell us all about next month.
Thank you, Polly. And thank you very much for joining today's session. We hope you'll join us again next month on Tuesday, the 10th of June, when we will be looking at transition. So if you have any great tips for best practice for transition, please do let us know before the next session, as we would love to share these top tips worldwide. One last request from us before we finish. Please do take a moment to share your feedback using the QR code on screen. Let us know what's working for you and what you would like to see more of so that we can tailor these sessions to meet your needs. Thank you once again for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again on the 10th of June. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.